how's everyone doing? Hey, my name is Mark Kramer, and I'm head of digital technology for Pac-12 Networks. I am joined here by two members of my team. I'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Lance Gang, and I'm a developer with Pac-12 Networks.
And I'm Brian Ju, and I'm also a developer for Pac-12 Networks.
So I don't know how much everybody in this room knows about what we do, but we are the television networks that are owned by the 12 schools that make up the Pac-12 conference. And instead of spending a whole bunch of time telling you about what we do on TV, why don't I show you a little bit of what we do on TV?
Highlights and heartbreak, beyond belief and behind the scenes. We are Pac-12 Networks. We are coverage, the complete kind. Championships, the national kind. Fans, the forever kind. Watch Pac-12 Networks, where champions play.
So Pac-12 Networks was started in 2012. Two of the three of us helped launch the networks. We are our 7 linear television networks distributed on Comcast, Dish, Time Warner, hundreds of other providers. We also have a huge digital platform. So we built and operate Pac12.com, a big Drupal site. We operate the official athletic sites for all of our schools, and we have an app in market for TV everywhere called Pac-12 Now. What makes us very unique in our world is that we are wholly owned by our schools. So 100% ownership. Our board is the 12 presidents of the university. And what we do is really, it's all about live sports. So we've developed systems to deliver live sports at scale. So this season, we're just coming to the end of it. We'll have broadcast over 850 live games on our networks. We also broadcast another 400 ad hoc live university-produced games on our digital platform. Many additional broadcasts that we do, remotes, could be anything from a press conference to a media day. Plus, we do a lot of studio and original programming. And then beyond all of that, we still support 3,000 events a year. So now 3 years in, 12,000 events have a home on the internet where we bring all kinds of data together and serve the fans. And it's all available online, on your phone, on tablets, on Pac-12 Now. So instead, again, of telling you all about Pac-12 Now and what TV Everywhere is and how the product works, we got Rick Neuheisel, who's coached 3 of our Pac-12 football teams, Washington, Colorado, and UCLA, to tell you all about it.
Okay, listen up. This is what we've been working toward. Our chance to make history. You can watch anything on any of the Pac-12 networks via our website and mobile apps. I'm talking everything Pac-12, football, basketball, baseball, the Olympic sports. And what do you have to do to get it? Do you have to run a 4-second 40? Do you have to face a 300-pound lineman? No! But you do have to authenticate. That means you already subscribe to a TV provider that carries the Pac-12 networks. Just sign in. If you don't know your username and password, no sweat. Contact your cable company and they'll help you figure it out. Once you're in, head full speed to Pac-12 Sports, wherever you are, whenever you want it, on your own device. So what are you waiting for? Let's get this done.
So Oprah moment. Everybody here gets Pac-12 Now for free. Look on your screen. No, only kidding. It's in the App Store. You can download it today and authenticate with your cable provider, and we could actually turn on our phones right now and eat all the bandwidth that's available in this room by watching Pac-12 Networks live on our phone. We essentially what we do is we take TV and we put it on your phone so you can watch 850 live games a year, which is a whole lot of fun. Now, during the sports season, we often are a top 25 sports app, so we do a ton of volume through our native mobile apps, Android and iOS. They are fully native. They all run on top of our Drupal APIs that you're going to see a lot about today. We've had continuous growth since launch. Mobile is massive for us. Between responsive and native, it's well over 50% of our traffic, and it just keeps on growing. We're constantly evolving those products too. I mean, the way we work, it's very iterative. We do week-long sprints. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But it's really about delivering awesome features to our customers so they can really enjoy their sports that they love. And we plan to expand to more screens in the future. So all of our infrastructure is built so we can hit consumers anywhere they are on any device they want. So there's a couple of challenges that occur to us when we think about delivering live TV at scale on the internet. Because live TV is interesting. It's different. For most people that work in streaming, live is a unique animal. Your streaming service never breaks like Tuesday afternoon when there's not a game on. It only breaks when there's 5 minutes left in a close Arizona basketball game, or as Arizona, or Oregon's about to get beat in overtime in football when the entire world is watching. So you got to think about things a little bit differently than maybe you would. And there's some sort of big challenges that come along with that. How do we provide fans with incredible access? So not just for football and basketball, but for field hockey and volleyball and soccer, you name it, gymnastics, water polo. We excel in the Pac-12. We incredible teams across all of these sports. We want people to be able to see those and have more access than they've ever had. We want to meet the exuberance of fans everywhere. How do we deliver a spectacular user experience? So we know the world is changing. I mean, I'm not going to give the whole spiel on mobile, and we've heard it a million times. We need to deliver on that. And how do we leverage the existing investments that the schools have made and that we've made so that we can actually manage these things in a reasonable way? And sort of to that point, how do we create more opportunities to get this in front of more fans? There's a huge universe of fans that we don't address today, and this creates a great opportunity to put more fans in stadium, not only watching on TV. Big issue, how do you manage thousands of events a year with a tiny staff? One of the great things about Pac-12 is we were able to bring our entire Drupal team to DrupalCon this year, and they're right here. So we're a very small team. Our content team is small. The entire digital operation is about 17 people. That's content creators, editors, technologists, product managers. It's a small team. So how do you manage that? We had to figure that out. And then how do we make it something that we can support? No one wants to do support. Support's horrible. And hey, guess when all the sports happen? In prime time or on Saturday, and here's your team, and so we've got to figure that stuff out. So we did a bunch of things that are pretty interesting. Number one, we have access to internet too. As we're owned by the schools, essentially what that gives us is a direct 40 gigabit connection out of our broadcast facility directly to our schools. So we've brought, actually now it's over 90 venues on net. And what that means is we're able to drop a box on camera or on campus in a basketball arena or at the baseball diamond or the soccer field, plug 6 cameras and audio into it, and we bring it back to our facility and produce everything there. It's a revolutionary model. We're actually nominated for an Emmy for technical achievement this year. So it's something that we're really proud of, and it's really key to what we deliver to fans. So when we talk about Drupal transcends actually much more than just the website. It's connected all the way back to the campus. Our studios. So we bring all that data back, and essentially we've got production control rooms that allow us, they work like a production truck. Normally you'd drive a truck out front, you'd have a huge crew there. Here we can have a crew work back to back to back. Even the talent that calls the game is in our facility sometimes, not all times. And then Drupal. So Drupal was a very strategic decision. I see people from our schools here. All of our schools have deployed Drupal. We've got tens of thousands of Drupal implementations across campus. So it allows us to take some of the awesome technical work that we do and actually collaborate with people on campus. It's part of our mission. It's being owned by the conference. We love it as a platform for content management. It allows us to hire development talent. People already know it. Now, at the scale that we're dealing with and the complexity, it is definitely hard. I'm not saying, oh, we have an easy time hiring Drupal talent. That would be like my session, if that was true. There's a great community. We love the community, and we are really doing a lot of things, both in with the colleges, but also in the sort of uber kind of enterprise media community, trying to get everybody to collaborate and give back to the community through code and dollars and you name it. We really, again, I wanted to sort of reiterate on this. The collaboration part of it for us with the schools is something that we really are trying to spend a lot of time on to open up. So, sort of key to delivering on those challenges is our digital technology. Now, this is my logo soup slide here. I think the key points here are that we have this sort of idea that if something exists, we don't want to build it ourselves. Because we're a small team, the way we're going to go fast is by bringing great technology to bear, where people are doing lots of great things. So we do not have a built-it-here mentality, and you'll see when we actually dig into what we built here in a second, that we are solving problems that are very, very unique to us that I think a lot of folks can learn some really cool things from. And then on top of that, we think about things like support. So I've got someone like Acquia up there. That's a great example. I don't want to give a commercial for Acquia, but we have an enterprise engagement with them. We've got a TAM who is awesome and helps us keep the lights on so that when we need escalation, it's just not on the three of us. So we Oh, I am. Hey, how about that? Irony. So yeah, it's a big thing for us. So on the left side of the slide, you can actually see all the things that we're delivering, from our consumer experiences to APIs to our real-time scores platform, all the way down to the content management. It's all packaged together. And sort of a funny thing happened when we built that, which was, hey, we built this cool system, we built all these APIs, and now all of a sudden it's integrated into everything that we do. So we're doing the end-to-end content management for all of our digital assets. We've integrated with our broadcast systems, and you're going to see a whole lot about that today. That's been really exciting for us. We have this awesome ecosystem of partners. So one of the funny thing happened after we made our APIs and put them public. People like AT&T Uverse, their team came to us and said, hey, we want to develop a set-top app where we use your data and all the awesome content you guys are creating. And we said, sure, and I was on a call once, and these guys didn't really know about it. And then our product people worked with them. And then one day I came back and said, hey guys, guess what? AT&T just released the Uverse set-top app. Because our APIs were public and documented, these wonderful things happened for us. We've sort of taken that a lot further. We're actually now powering things in broadcast. We just recently powered our ticker, TV ticker, off of our score system, which comes through our APIs. We're in the middle of swapping out our video providers. Things are very, very modular. Everything's API-based. It's a really quick project, and we're able to do that over a couple months with just a few people. So this is all great, and we're going to look at some of the underlying things now. But as a technologist, I think it's really easy a lot of times to forget about why we're doing this. And I want to show a play that really demonstrates what we delivered. We delivered this on Pac-12 Now, so it was on the internet. It happened at night during the football season. We have a hashtag Pac-12 After Dark, because crazy things happen on Pac-12 Networks after dark. We had this happen actually 3 times this year. Brian Juke cried. Not tears of joy, though. Tears of sadness. So here we go. This is what it's all about.
Jones lines up on the slot to the right. Solomon is back to throw. He's rolling. Looking downfield. Has time to set up. Throws it long. Has a man. It's up for grabs. Try to the end zone. Arizona has scored the touchdown. Austin Hill in the end zone. Wildcats win.
So there you go. It's all about meeting the exuberance of fans. So Brian said, Cal alum, also Colorado alum, so it's not been going well for him on the football field. But there's this year coming up, they're going to be a lot better. So this is a good transition here to our APIs. So we've spent an enormous amount of time on our APIs over the last 2 years, and I'm going to have Lance sort of talk you through the various APIs that we have publicly available that you can use today. If you wanted to build your own version of Pac-12 Now, you could.
All right. So our APIs consist of several different resources. We have an app config that provides configuration details for basically all of our properties. Video on demand. Our electronic programming guide, which is live video and events and stuff streamed. And then that's basically our scheduled programming, which brings me to our On Now API, which is basically the real time of what's actually on, and it's scheduled from our master controls. All of that is also coupled with our sports, schools, events, networks, and then, of course, our scores, which are very important. Again, it's good to point out that all 3,000 of these events are prepared by about 50 people from our conferences, our networks, and our schools. And it's our system of record. There's no authentication needed for our APIs. And like Mark said, our documents are available online.
And we've got the URL up here.
URL's up there. And I think another important thing about the APIs is the naming and governance, which Mark will talk to a little bit.
Yeah, so when we release our APIs, as Lance said, our events API, for example, Drupal, our Drupal instance, is the system of record for all Pac-12 games. So if you're going to schedule, if you are at UCLA and you're in charge of UCLA's basketball schedule, you work in the AD, you're coming in our system to schedule all of your games. And we use that event API actually to integrate with everything from our EPG. So EPG is our schedule of programs down to VODs, all the content. We also have all of our written content available. It's not that big of a part of what we do, RSS feeds. We basically have created a graph of data around this stuff. And where naming and governance becomes very important for us is what we like to call the Oregon State example. So what is the abbreviation for Oregon State University? Anyone have a guess? Wrong, because people in Ohio think it's Ohio State University, and we're going to play them, which Oregon did in the final of the football playoff. And if you're in Oklahoma, OSU means Oklahoma State University, and remember, you've got 50 people creating a schedule, and so we need to understand that Oregon State is actually ORST. So what we've been trying to do, this is a rampant problem in college sports. There's no data governance. There's no sort of master naming sort of entity. So a lot of the thinking behind putting these things out for anybody to use was, hey, maybe if we just make it available, people will start to use it and we can start to solve these problems, because we then need to reconcile that with broadcast systems, and we need to reconcile that with scoring platforms, and reconcile it with other things that we want to do outside in our ecosystem. And so it's a big, big problem that we're trying to solve by working in the open. So why don't you tell everybody how we made these things?
Well, the services module, it's all you really need, but we also created custom queries and indexes for performance optimization. We front all of our APIs with Fastly CDN. We've developed a custom cache master module that helps us implement fine-grained TTLs and control our cache invalidation for varnish and at the edge. We've implemented custom e-tag hashes to limit refetching of data when it's not changed. We've also make sure that our apps and cache our data in local storage and actually respect our TTLs. And then, of course, New Relic is your friend. We use New Relic Mobile and APM. It really allows us to follow our requests all the way through and really target and increase our performance on our APIs.
So because our APIs are completely public and open and everything rides on top of them, they need to be really, really performant. And Lance has done an amazing job of working with our tooling around this stuff to really make these things scream. So we've done a lot of work. We're actually working now to make the Cache Master module open source so everybody can use it. Essentially what it allows you to do is have very fine-grained control over a path or a set of paths to the wildcard for a cache invalidation. In sports and live sports, things need to fall out of cache at very specific times. And what we've found as a team, once you start throwing time on top of everything, time and cache equals sad times if you're not really, really able to control things well. You get into Drupal cache, it's sort of a black box down there, and then we've got varnish on top of that, and you've got Fastly on top of that. We've really solved the problem of being able to absolutely pinpoint things and have them fall out of cache exactly when we want, and it really makes our performance rock. So, awesome job, dude.
Thanks. So what did we learn while building these APIs? First and foremost, you have to keep it simple. If you overcomplicate things, you're not going to help anyone, especially yourself and the people using your API. Versioning is absolutely crucial. We actually have a V3 of our API coming out in June already. As soon as you build something, and it gets used, you're going to see ways to improve it, and you're going to want to improve it. So make sure you version. Working in the open is one of my favorite things. Developing in public makes it better and enforces best practices. You really can't sweep things under the carpet when you're developing in public, and it's great. You need to think about your data structure and the usability. How is it going to be used? How is it going to be ingested? What's going to be done with it? An easy API is absolutely crucial to productivity of the developers. Moving into the future, I mean, one thing I would have liked to have changed is probably partial response support, and what that is allows developers to pass in the exact data that they need to receive only the data they need, and data is expensive these days with delivering everything to mobile and whatnot. It's really good to have a limited control where you're only giving your users exactly what they want, because speed is everything.
Right on. So that actually sets up what we want to talk about with enterprise systems integration. And so here's a problem that we had to solve, and I think that we're going to have Lance drive the computer, and Brian and I are going to go Vanna White it over here as we sort of walk through this. But so live sports plus a schedule, our electronic program guide, equals really tough times, because when does a game end? Like, what time does it end? You've got the game starts at 8, so if anybody can tell me exactly what time it ends before the game is played, I'm really psyched, because we haven't been able to come up with a way to solve that. So when you have 852 live events across 7 networks, sometimes they're on all 7, sometimes they're on 1, sometimes they're on 3, and one's on 4, your TV schedule is wrong 375 times per year when your events on average end 44% not on time. Which means that every single day our schedule is wrong, and it's almost always during prime time. And so the experience that you get as a user, and we're going to show you how we address this when we start talking about the Decoupled Drupal work we did, is the game, I've got a back-to-back game now, because remember, it's like 800 events and it's 365 days. So I'm going to come for the second game. The first one's running long. I go to the app, and I click on my game, what I think is my game, and it's not my game because it's the other game that was already on, and I'm completely freaking out because I've got my friends over, we've got the Chromecast rocking, everything is great, and I'm like going nuts, right? I'm calling my cable company, how dare you do this to me? And I don't blame people. So we spent a lot of time solving this problem. Now, the other issue that makes us so unique here is we're not delivering like a one-off program in a stream, and then we start another stream for the next program, and we start another stream for the next program. This is live TV. It ends when we go out of business. Like, the stream is over when we shut off the lights and go home. So you've got to match data to something that's actually happening live as you're watching. So essentially what people see is they're going to come here, and here's what our schedule looks like. You've got the website's all responsive on the right side. You've got our app on the other. Look, there's all kinds of things to watch, but it's not what I wanted. And it really just lives on top of something that looks like this. Hey, look, there's our first API responsive and the last API response we're going to show. But it's all the metadata that we talked about, and all the APIs are all brought together here. So it's literally everything from our sports, schools, and networks APIs. So you're going to basically cross-reference those across the graph to be able to build what you want on the other side and assemble those pages. So let's talk about, we'll go on down there right now, and we can talk a little bit about how you built this. So what do you say here?
Well, services module is all you really need, but it's never that simple. So one of the challenges is that we need to integrate both our TV programming management system and our master control system. So on the left, the programming...
Can we explain what that is?
Sure.
So on the left side, this is the Wide Orbit is a tool that our TV programming team works in to actually create the schedule that then goes to master control that the TV network runs off of. On the right side of it, we've got the actual master control. So during a live event, there's a lady or a fella sitting there who's transitioning the programs. So it's automated all up into that point. And so you can't just go off one or the other because you've got to be able to reconcile these things. That's what this fellow built right here.
All right, so on the left we have an FTP server and wide orbit FTPs and XML file up to that server every half an hour, because the schedules, even though it's a static schedule, it's always changing because the programming team is always making changes to it. So every half an hour we get that file, and that triggers off an upload script. And that's when that script runs, it does an XML validation of that file, and then it posts that file over to Pac12.com, our Drupal site. And so our Drupal site takes that XML, and from that it creates our EPG nodes, which is what powers the program guide on our site and for the API. Basically, that's just metadata, the event title, teams, sports, what sport it is. And then attached to that, we have entities, what we call program time entities. And that's basically just a network and what time the event is on. So that's great. We have a schedule. We can show what's coming up, but
It's run long.
it's not enough. It's not enough.
You need the other side.
So on the other side, we have to integrate with what Mark described, which is the real-time feed of everything that's coming on a network. And so every time a segment gets queued up, whether it's a commercial or a promo or the actual broadcast, there's a notification that's sent out.
So you explain. Brian wrote a TCP client that connects over the network directly to our master control board.
Right, and so we have 7 networks, so we have to have seven of these sockets. And each one is just running an infinite loop if we subscribe to the socket, and then we listen for the XML response that comes back. We parse that out, we store it in a database, and then at the bottom we have a broadcaster, and every 15 seconds we need to post a JSON back to our site to tell our site, what's actually on our networks. And so Pac12.com takes that JSON, and we have an on-now entity, which has a field set for each of the 7 networks, and this JSON post updates each of the 7 networks every 15 seconds. So we know exactly what's on, and we can use that information to transition the programs when they actually end.
So really, you've got 2 different APIs. You've got our EPG API that tells you the schedule, and you've got the OnNow API that tells you what's actually on right now, and then you can reconcile those 2 pieces on the front end, depending on how you want to display it. The display logic happens there. Do we want to go to the next slide?
How do your broadcasters consume the EPG, and how often do they consume those updates that you just described? And are they good about it?
So in terms of live TV, we're actually better than live TV. So if the question was, like, if I'm looking at my Comcast TV guide, it's not going to update. It's going to have a generic thing that says like college basketball on it, and then it'll have some details. And they sort of mask that through by being ambiguous. Whereas in our experience, you just can't get away with that. People expect to see what they want. So essentially, all of our clients are going to poll that API every 10 seconds. So every single mobile device that's in market that's open, every single web experience is riding on top of that. We're just starting now. The OnNow API is very new. We're just trying to figure out how we can use that with other providers. Now, one of the issues that we see around live TV or TV in general is the capabilities around video are growing immensely. They're awesome. 4K, all kinds of cool stuff happening on there. All the virtual stuff that's happening around data, it is not happening. So we're trying to help solve some of these problems, and it's a really cool opportunity for us. And we'll talk a little bit now when we get into real-time scores about how we're actually pushing data into TV from our systems.
Okay, so the number one challenge that we faced, obviously, was making sure that people can see what they want to see. But beyond that, another critical function of our site, if you're not watching the game, you want to know the scores of the games you're interested in. So on our site, we have a scores ticker, and we have a scores page on each of our apps, and those need to be updated. And, it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's pretty common for football, basketball, the major sports. But we also have to power our Olympic sports, lacrosse, soccer, water polo, things like that. And to get that data, that's a challenge.
And what you're seeing here, this is a score script on our website. This updates in real time as the score in the event changes. So this is what fans sit on their mobile device. They're like, oh my God, how is my team doing? I'm watching it. They want to see it automatically refresh. Come in. So here's a simple diagram of how we manage scores across. This is no joke. This is like a legit diagram, right? This is how we manage scores across a whole bunch of sports. Today we met with the folks from MLS, and I was like, if we had one sport, that would be so cool. Because we could just get that thing down. But we got a lot of sports that we cover, so we've got to get data a lot of places. Do you want to talk through that really quick?
I'll talk through it really quick. The bottom line is that we have various sources of information coming from different providers. So on the left, we have 3 of our scoring services. And each one of those can score, sports data scores college football and men's and women's basketball. And then StatCrew and SMT are what we use for our other sports. And they each give us different data back, and they're each giving us different data for different sports. And so we have all these different data sources in different formats, and we need to bring that all together so that our website can consume it, and so that we can spit out a scores API.
For the record, it takes this to show 2 schools' names, 2 numbers, and a period. I mean, this is what it took. One of the issues we face, especially around Olympic sports, so not football and basketball, where we get awesome data out of sports data. It's so rich, so fast. It's things like StatCrew. It's a DOS program that, hey, we invented the whole FTP to HTTP mechanism that we use for our dynamic EPG. We actually invented it for this because StatCrew, every single time you save the file, uploads an XML file somewhere. Oh, by the way, there's no validation of any data field in that software. So you can write anything in any field, and no one's been trained on how to use it because it's DOS. So tonight, get Skyrim. All right.
So what we built is what we have is a Node.js server, a Node.js application, and then in the back end we have MongoDB, and that allows us to take all the different scores format, all the different data that's in different formats from different providers, and put that into a database of raw data, and then our Node app will take that and it normalizes it according to the different strategies we have for the different sports, and then that's what makes it able to be consumed by Pac-12.com.
Do you want to talk about the TV ticker really quick?
Sure. So now we're actually able to power the TV ticker at the bottom of the page when you're watching a game on TV is getting powered by our API, just because of the work that we've done with this system. And so what we have is a headless Node.js system fronted by Drupal, but that's not all we have.
Do you want to show
the next slide? So in addition to those score services that we subscribe to, we've also built manual override forms, so that if we have a content person who's watching a game that we're not getting scores for, they can actually manually enter the scores, and this sends it back to our Node.js application, gets processed, and then comes back to our Drupal system.
The interesting thing here is we're essentially just using Guzzle as an API client against our Node system, and we really felt like, hey, look, these people already have accounts in Drupal. Why not just use the account management system, but yet allow Drupal to do what it does, marry the data to our, you can see event IDs in there, so that's from our Uber schedule. All the metadata around it is all coming out of Drupal, but yet it's married because we've got good governance around IDs and naming. Now we can bring those things together and actually control other systems' content through the Drupal content management interface. So do you want to talk key learnings?
Sure. So what did we learn? Drupal can integrate with anything if you use your imagination and if you're working closely with what you're trying to integrate with. Let Drupal do what it's good at, like Mark just said. Users and content management, but don't be afraid to use something else if it works better than Drupal, like setting up 7 listeners for 7 sockets on a continuous loop. You might not want to do that with Drupal. Know what your external systems are actually doing. So, we need to really understand what our master control system's doing and what our programming management system's doing in order to actually integrate with it. Design for disaster. 60% of the time, things are going to fail every time.
It's true.
And no, seriously, data and taxonomy governance is really important. Because if you're integrating with all these different systems, you need to be able to match your data up, and otherwise you just won't know it. And the future is just more systems and more data.
Cool. All right. So now we're going to talk about Headless Drupal, aka Decoupled Drupal. Show of hands, which one is it? Decoupled? Headless? Oh, we're going headless. Cool. I don't know if the marketers would be psyched about that, but people choose. All right. So why don't we go down and now Lance and I are going to go do some more in-van action here. So why don't you talk a little bit about why we decided to go with Decoupled Drupal?
Well, it's really kind of what Grease said this morning at his keynote. Our game-changing TV schedule, no more fans clicking to refresh over and over until they get what they want. Real-time scores, people want to know what's going on when it happens. They don't want to wait around and hear it somewhere else or get the excitement flowing for them. Better and more app-like user experience on the web page. Drupal's user-facing DOM also can be particularly heavy, especially for complex sites, and we're always focused on performance improvements. So something like Headless Drupal is a really good opportunity for us to get those things.
So on the DOM part of this thing, as part of the New Relic scrubs we've been doing, essentially every sprint or 3, we will pick low-hanging fruit from New Relic. And what we found as we've gone headless is we've been able to carve like 5 seconds off of page load times, which is an insane amount. And it really, really benefits users a lot.
So how do we do this? With Backbone.js and our APIs, of course. Our APIs allow us to manage data with collections. Collections are just records of data that are passed back to us. We represent the data with models. We display our data with views. Models are representations of the data that allow us to customize the output of them and do a lot of business logic that we need to get the data. And views are obviously a visual representation of that data. The event handling in Backbone is particularly good, in my opinion. It allows you to react to what you want, when you want. And then we use long polling to continually get the data that we need. It just continually polls itself. It's a hybrid approach with Backbone.js, CTools plugins, and panels.
So what we're going to look at here is actually our site working as these transitions happen. Now, it's hard to do a live demo of these things because it needs to be a certain time for things to happen. So instead of us all waiting till like 7 o'clock tonight when the game starts, we can just show some videos. So this right here can go. This is our event page, and this rides on top of. Oh my gosh, the game has changed. It rides right on top of our APIs. It'll change back in a second. So the OnNow API, all the work you saw that went in the diagram, the 2 sides, we're going to reconcile everything. That's what happens as a result right there. The user comes to the page. If they're sitting on the page, it changes. That's it. All those boxes there. So can you talk through a little bit how you built this?
Well, we built this, like we said, using our APIs in Backbone. It's a particularly challenging problem for us because we have our scheduled games and our actual real-time data that is what's actually on. So using Backbone, we were able to pull these APIs and get the data that we need. We can compare our scheduled data with our real-time data And this allows us to represent what's actually on and what people actually want to see. A single-page playback is what allows our users to stay on one page and watch what they want when they want. This all ties into our metadata, and your schedule is there. Everything is there. There's no refreshing, no extra data coming through the pipes. It's just really fast and efficient, and our users like it. It gets them what they want, quick. The metadata transitions. This is where our APIs come in with all the metadata. We have different games, different sports airing all the time, and people want related content and information. So say we have a basketball game on, we're able to show related data with the video playing. If it switches to a football game, we have content that's related to football, and this allows us to really give our fans the things they want to see. The real-time scores again. This was also built using Backbone. And our APIs. This allows us to represent in-progress games in real time as they happen and show really up-to-the-minute updates on our scores. So what did we learn through this all? Well, this works and it's awesome, but really it's only kind of headless. But we think that's okay. It's not fully headless because it's in Drupal, and that's awesome. But we are. Our APIs are only going to get better when everything relies upon them. Our web uses our APIs, our apps use our APIs, our ticker uses our APIs, AT&T uses our APIs. Everyone's using our APIs, and this really allows us to get them where they need to be. There are a few drawbacks going headless. There's no more in-place editing for our content team and in production. Less flexibility for layout changes and whatnot without a ton of work from developers. So in the future, we'd like to consider more headless, more separation, and other frameworks such as React and Angular and things such as that. We'd love to answer questions.
So does anybody have a question? I'll come down.
Phil Downey.
I saw the other guy do Jerry Springer,
Phil
and I
Downey.
thought I could match him with Geraldo Rivera.
No, I can shout. I just have a really basic question. If you could go back to your slide that shows your active site.
Sure.
When I'm looking at that, what am I looking at that's sort of a Drupal site, and what am I looking at that's been built from scratch in Backbone or other things? Like, how much of this is app and how much of this is Drupal site?
Ooh, let's go to a page, and I've got a few pages back we can go, and we can sort of talk through that.
Can you repeat the question on the mic?
Yes. So the question is, when we talk about the page being hybrid, how much of it is Drupal and how much of it is Backbone? Because there's a lot of great things in Drupal that are really, really, really difficult to replicate in, let me go back here because this guy's going to show us. A couple more back. I could have probably popped out. Okay, here we go. This is a great way to see it. So on the right side is our Networks live page. And so everything in the middle from the gray bar down is Backbone. So the schedule of what's on now, so what's up at the top, those 4 blocks, or 4 squares, I don't want to call them blocks, are coming in through Backbone. That's the On Now API, which reconciles against the EPG API below. Both of those are filled by Backbone, 2 separate requests. And then Lance does magic with his models to reconcile what goes where based upon the data that came back. Everything around that page, though, we control all the navigation. It's all responsive, by the way, so it looks great at any size. That's all controlled through Drupal. And it's a really nice approach because there's some things that look, this is the size of our team. Would it be great to have a whole API that controls layouts? Sure. But I think that's incredibly complicated to deal with. And one of the things that we love about what we're able to do is we can actually drag pieces of Backbone into a panel and drop it somewhere and do some really neat things with that potentially in the future that allows us to do some great stuff. I think you'll see more and more parts of our site go there, but there's a lot of core pieces of the theme it just makes sense to keep it there because it's a nice framework that allows people to kind of get in and understand it.
And all that content is stored in Drupal. I mean, there's an EPG node that represents each one of those programs that you see on that page. So, we're still using Drupal as the primary content management system.
I mean, it's really the whole point of Drupal, and maybe we didn't make this very well, is it really is the master store for all of our content and data. Anything that hits a consumer through any digital experience, I mean, even to the point of our official athletics sites. So if you go to, say, GoDucks.com, the Oregon official athletics site, their schedule is being fed by our events API. So in order to publish a schedule on Oregon's site, you go into our system, publish, and bam, it shows up out there. And so we really are doing a huge amount of data and sports sort of data graph management inside of this thing. It's awesome. I mean, I've been making websites for 18 years, and usually editorial teams hate my guts. Our team loves it because of how flexible this system is between panels and how things refresh for them. I mean, it really is. It's remarkable.
To get just a little technical on it really briefly, essentially what it really is it's CTools plugins that represent our Backbone views, and we can drop those CTools plugins onto pages, and that then instantiates our Backbone views, which pull all of our APIs and such.
Ooh, another question.
Somewhat related, I was just curious if you could expand a bit on how you handle cache and the various layers of CDN, varnish, etc. Because everything you're doing, you want to show real time.
Yes. So a lot of what we're doing. So there's 3 layers of cache really in this thing. There's Fastly on the edge for our APIs. There's Varnish in front of our entire site, and Fastly is simply Varnish hosted in the cloud, by the way. And then there's Drupal cache. So the things that we really thought about were like URL parameter management. So when you're gonna call a schedule, do I want you to specify a specific start time that you get as a timestamp, and then an end time, a certain amount of time? 3 days from then, or 5 days, or however long you want the schedule? No, because then every single user's request is completely different, and it's completely uncacheable, and you're doomed. So what we've done is we've created API endpoints that say, like, if I call the bare events API endpoint, or I call EPG with no parameters on it, I'm getting what's supposed to be on now, or what event is now or is next going forward to infinity with paging on it. So we're really smart about how we deal with that. And then we did a lot of work around making sure that our headers, this is the cache master module. I promise you coming soon, become my LinkedIn bro or broette, and I will communicate with you and let you know if you want it. It really helps us be able to manage these things with super short TTLs. So I'll give you an idea. Our Scores API has a 15-second TTL for caching, but it just gets dogpiled. And there's a limited number of keys that you can pass on that thing, so we know we get really good cache hit ratio on that. Whereas our EPG API or OnNow API, OnNow is never going to be more than a minute, because you want to make sure you can hit that top of the hour when that show happens. So that's got a shorter period on it. Now our config API, which gives all of our cable provider configs for Adobe Pass or certain application configurations, those have got like 3-day TTLs on them because they don't need to change very much. So really thinking through TTLs makes life a lot better, and then just making sure that everything that you build on top of it respects headers. So if you can use local storages in your Android app or core data in iOS, we've got developers on our team also that aren't here that build those applications. You've got to get great communication between those 2 groups. Otherwise, bad things will happen to you, and you will be sad. Or you'll have a day like in March when we decided during March Madness to give our networks away for free, and you had Arizona, UCLA, and Oregon all playing in our basketball tournament for free, no authentication on our website. You better be ready for that because you're going to do traffic.
Can we see your contact information again?
Yes, you sure can. Can you go to the last slide? You might want to exit and jump back in. Any other questions? Okay. Hey, thank you guys very much. It was awesome. We really liked the opportunity to be able to talk about this. And if anyone wants to connect afterwards, we'll be up here. Otherwise, we'll see you around.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.